All right, so everyone, first of all, congratulations on making it to the end of the semester. I appreciate all of the effort that you have on all the questions that you've asked. Um, Teaching this course also, helps me understand this more, and I have also appreciated getting to know a lot of you and learn about your plans for the future and all those types of things. So I hope this has been an enjoyable course, even though, we have had a lot of interesting times. I mean, R didn't want to work for the longest time, and that got complicated. And then there ended up being a global pandemic, and now I am talking to you on YouTube with my dog hanging out with me. So it's definitely been weird. So at least hopefully it'll be a bit memorable in that way. But in all seriousness, this is important stuff to learn. As I said at the beginning of the semester, people make decisions based on data, so we should know how to understand and interpret data, even if we aren't scientists ourselves. Maybe if you're making decisions for how countries should operate, you should know some things about data too, just throwing that out there. Unfortunately, that doesn't seem to be happening as well as it should. So maybe some people should be taking this class. So I just want to wrap things up, kind of like parting takeaway points from this class. These are largely things that I want you to remember the most, even if you don't remember exactly what the difference between a z-test and a t-test is. So if we were in person, I probably would have brought in some yummy vegan treats to celebrate the last day of class, but I can't do that over the internet. So we'll have Raja pop in and say hello. And what we're going to do is I'm going to give you some pictures of Raja to wrap things up instead. So these are just some of my favorite pictures that I've taken recently. This is not stats at all related, obviously, but I mean, this is kind of replacing your yummy vegan treats. So there you go. So this is a picture of Raja sitting on his mound of pillows. He loves when we put a ton of pillows all on top of each other, and then he'll climb up to the top and just hang out there forever. That is also his stuffed Pikachu that he loves, that he cuddles with all the time. So this next one is him hanging out. This is what he does when he wants to be petted. He'll lay down on his little bed and spread out like this. So that is super cute. You'll see that almost all of these pictures are of him being lazy because Professor Raja is a very lazy pup, aren't you? This is him laying in his little banana bed. He likes to cuddle with his little banana as well. So that's again him being lazy. And probably what I'd say is definitely my favorite picture we've taken of him was we were stuck inside for Easter, not able to see anyone. So we decided we were going to do something fun. And we got Raja a Peep costume here. So here is Raja dressed up as a little Easter Peep next to his stuffed Peep that we have for him. So there you go. I hope that is a good replacement for those vegan treats that we unfortunately all missed out on because of this global pandemic that's going on. On a little bit more serious note, I guess, some major things that I'm hoping you take away from this course is R is a tool that you can use for a lot of things. I've tried to get you a start to it so that if you ever have to use R in the future, maybe you end up at a job where they're using R, or you end up using R, or you go to grad school or something. This is a nice launching point for developing more of those skills yourself, even if you only have a basic understanding right now, because at least you understand things like what happens when you have an arrow pointed at something versus when you don't, what a package is, and installing and loading are, and things of that sort. You got past the first major learning curve of figuring out how to open up R and how all of the different stuff in RStudio works. So congratulations on that, because as I've said before, there are people that start trying to learn things like R or other programming languages to do statistics, but it's very frustrating at first, so they give up and go back to something that's more basic, and that limits them. So I'm hoping this, again, helps you to expand your skills. So one thing is I would encourage you to keep on learning more about R. if doing statistics and data analysis are something that you are interested in. So there's not really any such thing as learning all of R. You learn different parts of R. So there's all new packages coming out all the time. R is very complex, and there's a whole community based around creating things for R in the future. So I hope that is something that will definitely be valuable to you, or at least knowing how it works, I think is very valuable to get some insights into how data analysis works and how people make decisions with data. So another thing is there's a big long list of statistical analyses. If you go beyond this, you're going to get even longer lists. But what I really hope that you understand is that all of these complicated statistical analyses, no matter how complicated they get, they're all boiling down to these basic principles of probability and how much we would expect things to occur by chance, how likely things are, how unlikely things are, based on some sort of probabilities distribution. And all of these things are just more and more building up on these. And learning more statistics is basically learning how you run different analyses with different types of data, depending on the structure of the data. Is it categorical? Is it continuous, or some categorical and some continuous? How many variables do you have? And also about what assumptions are and whether or not those assumptions are actually met. But as you get more complicated, it's actually just adding more things on basically what you've learned in this class. So as you learn more stuff about stats, I hope that's also empowering to you as well, that none of this is magical. It's just adding more things or having to do things in a slightly different way because of how the type of the variable influences how the probability works. So another thing is that we have to be careful about using statistics in that it can be misused. So one thing I would say, and it's sometimes hard to keep in mind, even as a researcher, that statistics is a tool used for critical thinking. It isn't a replacement for critical thinking. So we don't want to just be running a whole bunch of analyses and then looking to see if the p-values are statistically significant and not stepping back and looking at it in more detail. That's where we make errors, and that's where we have things happening by random chance, but it looks good, so we run with it, and we don't want to do that. So when you're doing these analyses, it is not an exact science. Psychology isn't an exact science. Anything you're doing with statistics, not an exact science. So we're always making educated guesses. So we have rules about how we decide things. It's based on actually using the data, but we're going to be wrong some of the time, unfortunately. And I think we need to be humble about that and also consider that when we're making assertions or making decisions. You also want to make sure that if you find things, you don't let yourself become too convinced. It's important to keep in mind how strong your evidence is or is not. So if you find one study with a p-value just below 0.05, that doesn't mean that is the nature of reality and you can't be proven wrong because you've been proven right. It's pretty easy to find things by random chance, honestly, if you run a lot of things. So you want to be careful to not make strong conclusions until you actually have strong evidence. So another thing is, as people who study other people, people are very complicated, which is beautiful and awesome. But if you're trying to scientifically study people, understand them with mathematical principles, it's really hard. And indeed, the examples I've shown you in this class are kind of easier examples that are not super complicated data. Things actually, work out in a relatively clear, easy to understand way, but real life data gets super complicated. And indeed, when you're looking at the data, you're always only looking at part of the picture. So with that, I'd like to wrap up the semester. So thank you again to all of you. And let's thank our guest speaker that got us through this last bit when we ended up only being on me talking to you on YouTube and not really seeing you in person. So thank you to Professor Raja. I hope you are able to enjoy the summer. I mean, it looks like it might be tough for us all to get outside for a bit, but I'm hoping that you get a little bit of relaxation time over the summer, because I realize that this might have been the toughest, if not the weirdest semester that you've ever had in school. I wish you good luck in the future. I'm always available for you to contact me in the future by my email as well. And obviously, before the semester wraps up, always feel free to contact me with any other questions you have. If you want to learn more things that we didn't get around to this class, of course, please let me know, and I can send you some resources to learn about that as well. Thanks for the great semester, and enjoy your summer.